Welcome to Athletes, Entrepreneurs, the Alumni Journey. I'm Rob Finkelstein, founder and CEO of Alumni Direct. We've created a platform to help athletes and other alumni network and connect with each other. And more importantly, it's all about athletes transitioning out of sports. Such a major issue today, mental health, financial literacy. So we interview former college and professional athletes, and we talk about their journey, their transition out of sport, ultimately into successful business leadership and entrepreneurship. And it's all about teaching athletes and inspiring them that there is, in fact, life after sports. So excited today to have Natalia Bowles. How you doing, Natalia?
I'm great, thank you. Excited to be on.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So Natalia played soccer at Azusa Pacific and Trevecca, Nazarene. And then now she's just graduating and she started, as she was still there, her own company. So she's jumping right into entrepreneurship and she started the company Bridge Platform, which we're really excited to hear more about later. So Natalia, talk about playing sports growing up. How did that shape you leading up into college?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I started playing soccer as long as I can remember, probably around 5 years old, and my parents were always super dedicated to making sure that I was always at practices, games, but they'd also do a lot of personal training for me and were really focused on me being the best athlete that I could. And I think with a lot of that, my dad was always very sure about me being disciplined, and he always tried to teach me that at a young age. And so I think being held accountable for that at such an early age really helped me develop those skills growing up. And it also, of course, was so great to be alongside teammates growing up that had the same goals and desires, where everybody's working really hard at one thing and they're giving it their all. And beyond just sports, it teaches you so much about how to go about life.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you encapsulated everything. People that play sports start out at a young age and so many life lessons. So let's fast forward into college. So when you were at school, you were at two different schools. Was there any education, and I don't mean just like a one day thing, like a workshop, but where they talk about athletes transitioning out of sport kind of guide you into your future?
Honestly, there really wasn't any focus on life after sports, and I think that that is something that athletes truly do struggle with a lot. Everything is so focused on being an athlete now and making your identity in that, which is so awesome until you get to life after sports and you no longer have that attached to your name. And so if schools really chose to bring that in, I think that there would be a lot more help and support for those athletes out there.
Yeah, I agree, and I think some of the larger schools have certain programs, but I always talk about. I remember I had one of my earlier podcasts. This guy played football at Buffalo University, and he said, Rob, I really wish that there was a class or workshop mandated, during the semester that kind of walked you through all that, because when you're done, that's kind of it. And we do a lot trying to get partners together in different areas in mental health and financial literacy and trying to develop a curriculum where we could bring it to a school, to an athletic department to basically help the athletes, not only the current athletes, but the alumni athletes as well. So if they're fortunate enough to play college ball or pro ball, or even if not, just as an alumni, it'd be nice to be able to go back to your alma mater and be able to tap into programs like that.
Yes, absolutely. I think that if there was a lot more alumni engagement to leading those workshops, I think that there would be a lot of success there.
Yeah, no doubt. So now we'll hit alumni engagement in a moment here, but let's talk about a little bit about networking and connecting. Talk about the importance of doing it, especially while you're still playing the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I always tell everyone your network is your net worth. Who you know is exactly how you're going to go about life. And so it's always so important to connect with anyone and everyone that you can. A lot of people think that I need to wait until I'm done with sports or be graduated, when actually being a current athlete is the greatest time to do it. You already have so much respect in the fact that you are grinding every single day, and people respect you, even if it's CEOs, new founders, entrepreneurs, or just anyone that you're passing by. They respect that. They respect the hard work and ethic. And even if it's just as simple as connecting and extending an invite to say, hey, I'm an athlete here. I'd love to learn a little bit about you, and even just connect. And you never know where that can go in the future. But at the end of the day, really nurturing your network and the people in your community right in front of you is the most important advice that I could possibly give any current athlete.
Yeah, that's great advice. You're right. It's like when you're relevant, a lot of times I've talked to agents before where they say their athlete, they'll go through, they'll play all their sport and all that, kind of got their blinders on, which is understandable. But then what happens is they get done. They're like, okay, where's my big job? And they're like, okay, well, you didn't build the relationships. It's not there. So, I like what you said, even encouraging at a young age, even when you're in high school. Imagine, you've got your teammates, you've got their parents and coaches, and just never know where people are going to end up. So I think it's important to kind of put yourself out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always important to understand that at the end of the day, it's a relationship that you're building. It's never going to work out if you're just trying to exchange for a great job opportunity and that's your motive behind it. If you're truly being authentic and you really want to get to know this person and you want to build a relationship over time, that means so much more and that can get you so much further than just trying to get something out of it to benefit you at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So, talk a little bit about cross networking. And what I mean by that is it seems that most sports, at least the football, the basketball, maybe baseball, are very siloed. So, the athletes on those teams pretty much stick within their own team and their own sport and don't necessarily interact with the other athletes. How is that in your experience at the two schools that you're at?
Yeah, I think that really has to do with the athletic department. Our schools did a pretty good job at making sure that our teams were integrated through team events. Even things like chapel, where it was focused on student athletes only, getting them in the room, and a lot of encouragement as well from coaches trying to do fun games and team activities that involve both sports and just creating an opportunity where we can all bond because at the end of the day, like you said, if you're just one team, you can't really grow the university and the excitement there. And if everybody is all on board cheering you on, showing up to games, then it just makes such an awesome environment for your university as a whole.
Yeah, and then, yeah, absolutely. And then I would imagine even, after the fact, because I talk about even at the professional sports level, a lot of times you'll see, unless they're the star athlete, well, maybe they're all, you see the baseball and football players, maybe they're at a basketball game. But usually, I think it's so important that as an athlete, I always say that you have a similar DNA skill set, regardless of what sport you're playing. And so, back to what I said earlier, is that you start playing at a young age, and so that everything that's the practice, the preparation, the teamwork, the leadership, everything that goes into play there certainly helps out. So, like one of the things that we do is got to set one up here coming up in the future, but I was doing networking events with the previous podcast guests. And what I always liked about it is I've had football players, soccer players, basketball, MMA fighters. So it's been across the board of different types of athletes. But it was very noticeable when I did these networking events that you all had that common thread. I mean, I was a runner, I ran cross country and track. So regardless of sport, we have that common affinity, just like you would as an alumni of a school.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And I think that every athlete, regardless of the sport, they're all taught the same thing. They're all very disciplined, focused on leadership, teamwork. And at the end of the day, everybody wants to win, to be challenged. And if you're around people that can also challenge you and help you get to that common goal, then, that is the dream goal is to be around who you want to be.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about alumni engagement. So we kind of touched briefly on it before. When you at your schools again, did you see the athletic department kind of bring back alumni athletes, whether it was in soccer or just other sports, and not just for the homecoming games, but more so to interact and potentially mentor or work with different athletes?
Yeah, that's a great question. In my personal experience, our universities didn't really engage so much in the alumni in the sense of bringing them back, utilizing them to mentor the athletes, and even just share about where they are now. However, I actually did have a teacher that brought in an alumni who was a college athlete and he has his own company now. And just hearing his experience of an athlete, the struggles he went through after graduating, and to see where he is now was so inspiring and made all the difference just hearing his advice and seeing it firsthand that it is possible to be an athlete, to be in a spot where you have no idea what you're going to do with life after sports, and then see him come out of it so successful and was just such an opportunity of growth. And even I went up to him after and was like, I would love to learn more from you. And since then, I have gotten the opportunity to be mentored by him, to learn a lot about him. And I think that that is a place that alumni at the end of the day have so much to say. They have experience and they're most of the time willing to help and want to help. And so if our school's really plugged in on that, there could be a lot of athletes that are benefited from it.
Yeah, I think it's a two-way street. I mean, the school needs to reach out. The athlete wants to come back, but I've been in a lot of situations too, where my own personal one with Delaware, where I was with a former Hall of Fame player from the school, played 10 years in the NFL, and the school just didn't really have the bandwidth. But like he's like, tap me in, I'm ready. And I said the same thing. I mean, we'll come back and mentor. So I think people want to do it. It just kind of maybe need to be asked about.
Yeah.
I always ask this fun question. So I don't know if you got a chance to listen or watch to this point of where the question comes up to play. Not a hard one, but we're gonna play a little Back to the Future game. So we're gonna hop in the DeLorean and we're gonna go back to freshman year for Natalia. Talk about 10 words or less. What advice would you give to freshman Natalia?
Yeah, I would say um, connect with anyone you can and always be willing to offer an extended hand to help anyone who's around you on your team or in class.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's I mean everything you hit on there is so important. And then let's fast forward now. We're gonna hop in, and now I guess now we're at Trevecca Nazarene. And what would be what 10 words of advice or less would you give to a senior? Which you're coming out of that right now. But if is there any other things that maybe you looked at the start of this year that you wish now that you might have done?
Yeah, advice I would give is start preparing for life after sports as soon as you can. Make those connections, start building a team of people that you can outreach to while you have the following while you're an athlete.
That's good. Okay, I like it. So she got tested. She pretty much hit like right around those 10 words on each one. So great job on that. So,
Yeah, that was a hard one. I was
I
like,
want to.
how do I minimize my words here?
Yeah, well, you didn't do this though. Sometimes it's like, okay, 1, 2, 3. They start
Right.
counting. It's kind of funny. Sometimes people just they can't do it, or they expand on it, which is great. I mean, it's always good to hear that. So something else I want to talk to since you're living in the time of NIL, name, image, likeness. Give me your thoughts, both positive and negative, from what you've seen in your experience.
Yes, I have been fortunate enough to have started NIL myself back in high school, my senior year when it first started. It was kind of a newer thing, and since then it's expanded so much. I think there's a lot of positives to it in the sense of you have the opportunity to connect with these brands, to represent them in the best way that you can. And I think that for the brand side of things, it's a great opportunity for them to utilize actual athletes that are posting or marketing for them and use them long term. And I think that the downside of it is that everyone is so focused on how much money am I going to make per post or per product that I'm repping, and vice versa. The company is like, how many more customers can we gain by this athlete posting, when at the end of the day that's something that's really hard to track. It's hard to track the ROI there, but at the end of the day, if you are nurturing of that connection that you make with any company that you get the opportunity to be represented by, and you grow with them long term, that has a bigger impact than just a one-off post and a one-off payment.
Yeah, have you been exposed to different education on it? I mean, as far as like, hey, you got to pay taxes, maybe set up an LLC. I mean, was that brought into your life when you got into the whole NIL space?
Yeah, the education there is very limited. A lot of what I know about NIL was just self research and self outreach and marketing. But I mean, so many people would be so surprised by how many athletes have no idea how to even get started, what it means. It's those bigger athletes that are making, the big dollars, that have the agents that are able to support them and guide them, but not everybody has that opportunity or that access to agents. And so I think that if it was talked about more in school and there were people that could help athletes understand, how do I get in front of these brands, how do I prepare for taxes, and how do I create a long-term brand for myself, so I'm repping brands that actually are aligned with my values, not just aligned with dollar signs, then I think that there would be a lot of benefits there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's everything you said there is so true, and I think there's definitely need for more education. Just people to understand. I mean, you hear some horror stories about just athletes getting pretty good money, but then just not knowing, just maybe spending it all, and not realizing, hey, you should pay taxes, all that kind of other good stuff that goes along with that. And then I guess, last question related to that is, and I'm not sure, you know, where you were playing at the two different schools, but what's your thoughts on the portal as far as, you've got this team and you got this chemistry, but like with people leaving, does that affect the team?
I think that there is a lot of controversy right now within the transfer portal. I entered it myself and had a great experience. I was able to gain so much value at my previous school from my teammates, and my experience within friendships that I'll have forever. And of course, being able to make an impact on the field. However, transferring allowed me opportunity to expand within a new region. And I think that it really kind of depends on the athlete's intention when they're entering the portal. There's a lot of athletes now that are entering it because of NIL or entering it because they're going to make more money somewhere else. But at the end of the day, I think if it's going to provide you a better opportunity for your future goals and for your career to grow, then it's a great opportunity. However, I think that there also is a lot of loyalty to your teammates and to your own school that should also be remembered when entering the transfer portal.
Yeah, that's all great advice there, because I think a lot of people don't necessarily look at it that way. So now, as you're finishing up and or finished up, and now you're looking to transition out of sports, so you played soccer your whole life. Talk a little bit about your journey now and how it's going. Ultimately, knowing that, hey, this thing I've been doing forever, now it's not here anymore.
Yeah, playing soccer, of course, doing it my whole life was such an incredible opportunity. I loved it so much. My teammates, the ability to show up every day and grind and be a part of a team. And I think that I've been fortunate enough to be able to start my own fitness studio that is a franchise. And so I think having a team there that I'm still a part of that is in the fitness industry has made the transition from being an athlete every day to still feeling like an athlete every day with just the fitness involved and being a part of a working environment that wants to work hard and support each other and community. And so, for any other athlete that doesn't have that opportunity, it's just if you can get a part of a fitness oriented community, that is like number one key because that's what you have when you're part of a team. You have people holding you accountable, people you want to show up every single day because, yeah, you want to get better, but because you want to show up for them. And if you can be a part of that right after sports or even right before you graduate, it makes the transition so worthwhile because it lets you still enter the next phase of your life, but doing so where you're still able to carry on your core values.
Yeah, that's great. And any aside from the fitness, any other advice that you give to athletes as they're getting ready to transition out of sport, either from college or professional?
Yeah, I definitely think it's super important beyond just the fitness side of things and community that you're really preparing for life after sports and doing that starting young, when while you are an athlete, kind of like we talked about earlier, and prepare for what your life will look like after, whether you think you're going to go pro or whether you are going to go pro or you're not. Make those connections, have a backup plan because there is never anyone at fault who is more prepared than someone who has no idea what would happen if plan A doesn't work out. And so that is where I try to tell as many people as I can, like, make sure that you have some kind of plan, something that you know that you can resort to. Every single person brings so much value and is put here for a reason beyond just being an athlete. And I think that if they can truly find what they love early on and be able to follow through that after sports, then it'll create such a place of carrying on their identity to multiple different places beyond just being an athlete.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that's all great advice, and I think you kind of hit on that last point. I think a lot of times athletes tend to identify themselves as the sport. So I'm
Right.
going to tell you, the soccer player, Rob the runner, Billy the football player, but you have so many years ahead of you still. And I guess the other thing too is always encouraging. You're not in it alone. People want to help, so certainly look to do that.
Absolutely.
So now let's talk about, we're getting into what you're doing today. And obviously you're going the entrepreneurial route. And I forgot we talked offline about the fitness studio. We'll talk a little about that now too. But
Yeah.
what do you think, what skills that athletes have? What does that make a good entrepreneur?
That's a great question.
How does that make a good entrepreneur?
Yeah, athletes understand that you have to start from the bottom. You have to work hard for what you want to get. But if you are willing to work hard every single day and keep your eyes focused on that end goal, then the extra hours, the long, boring time you have to spend into progressing that we all as athletes have been through ourselves, whether it's spending time outside of your practice hours and putting in your own efforts or going to the gym or doing fitness on your own. There's so many little things that carry on into being an entrepreneur where it's a lot of time spent where it can be boring. But if you're doing something you love and you're persistent with it every single day and you have your end goal in your heart and your values and the reason why you're even doing it in the first place, then they relate so much. And athletes are have done it their whole life, and so it honestly is the easiest way for athletes to create something big is by being an entrepreneur, as long as they're willing to put in that work to see the results put into play.
Yeah, and then like you said, I mean, athletes are used to the work, so I mean, it just seems like a natural fit there. So let's get a little bit into kind of the starting of you've got the fitness studio. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about your company, Bridge Platform. But with this studio, like when did you start doing that? I mean, you're just coming off your senior year, so did you start that like earlier in college, like sophomore, junior? Like when did that start?
Yeah, so this kind of ties back to when we were talking earlier about NIL, making those connections with the brands beyond just a one off post and really getting integrated for long term growth. That's your number one opportunity as an athlete to grow with a company without even having to outreach randomly or doing those one off outreaches. You work with the people you already have in your community, in your circle. And so when I was a junior transitioning out to Trevecca, I got a call from our fitness studio out here. It's called Stride Fitness. And they had called me and asked me if I could basically be a brand ambassador, face of the brand here out in San Diego. And I was so excited. I already loved fitness. It aligned with my values. It aligned with who I was. So I knew that this was something easy that I could represent. And so fast forward after season, I came back home and agreed to be a part of that side of things with their company here in San Diego. And I absolutely fell in love with the concept because it is a HIIT workout. So it's focused on getting both your cardio while also getting both your toning and strengthening in one workout. So it's super high intensity, but it matches exactly what you're looking for. And this was the first time that I was able to bring my mom to a workout with me and both of us and be able to work out together and get what we wanted. My mom was always like, absolutely not. I'm not going to a fitness or workout class with you. You're training to be a college athlete and I am not. And so it took me such a long time to convince her and I did. And she fell in love with it and she was able to walk while I was able to run. She was able to tone and I was able to strength. And we got exactly what we wanted. And we had the best time. And so we kept going back. And that really got me so excited to see from my mom's own eyes, watching her growth and love for fitness just by showing up every day a part of a community. And that really got me so excited about the opportunity of what Stride was already doing. And so I tried to make every connection within the company that I could, within their corporate team, met everyone possible, stayed in touch with them. And then they were the ones who actually were like, you are so perfect for this. Why don't you think about opening your own out in Nashville? Because they do have a few other locations out here in California and Colorado. And it was a no brainer for me. I absolutely was like, I can get behind this. I am an athlete. I understand working hard. But more importantly, watching the love of other people who are athletes or maybe not athletes still be a part of a community where they get to grow, they get to feel excited about their personal growth, getting 1% better every day, but still supporting each other. And I was just blessed with the opportunity to carry that through.
That's great. And then now let's talk about your baby, Bridge Platform, and tell us all
Yeah.
about it and some of the great things that they're setting up.
Yeah, so funny enough, around the same time I, being a junior, was able to see a lot of my other friends that were juniors and especially seniors transitioning to life after sports. They were going through this almost like midlife crisis, but in college, where they didn't know what was happening and what they were going to do. Their sport was going to be taken away from them. They were trying to apply for a million jobs, got no response, trying to juggle. I'm still an athlete, I'm still going to class, but I can't find any opportunities for me. And then those that would get an interview extended would be asked, well, what have you done before this? And they have nothing on their resume because they spent so many hours being an athlete. And so that really got my mind opening and thinking, how can I create this bridge in the current gap where athletes are struggling to find employers or opportunities where they are feeling understood, where employers at the same time love athletes because they are talented, they have value, they understand you have to start from the bottom and work your way up and love being a part of a team. But for employers, it's hard to find that talent without spending so much time going through applicants and paperwork, and so my concept was I'm saving time, talent, and money and being able to put that all into one. And so that is where we created Bridge Platform, which is an opportunity for employers to post internships, project-based work, and jobs exclusive to student athletes. So they have a space for them where their employers are valuing their work efforts, and then vice versa, employers are finding high working talent.
Okay, great. And then how do you find the employers? How do you identify them?
Yeah, we have such a wide variety and range of athletes who have completely different majors. So a lot of people would think, oh, athletes only want to work in sports companies or fitness, but athletes actually want to work in so many different things like marketing, sales, engineering. We've had teaching, a CPG, so many different things. And we've gotten the opportunity to reach out to multiple companies and brands kind of representing all industries and getting them onboarded. And for the brands, it's kind of a no-brainer because their talent is sitting right there. It saves them so much time, and they're able to sort through the applicants through their major, sport, availability, kind of anything that they would need to know about them and find them all in one spot.
Okay, and then so it's like some of these obviously some of the companies are probably national companies, so that could rest across all your platform regardless of where their athletes are at.
Yes, absolutely. And we actually just soft launched this in May. And so we've had an incredible opportunity to see such quick growth on both sides. We're leaning into university partnerships before August when the athletes return to just be that support for athletic departments and their career centers. And then, same thing with employers, getting the word out as much as possible since we are new, trying to get in front of as many faces as we can.
Okay, and then so it's a platform that the athletes go on? Is-
Yeah, so it's free for student athletes to sign up. They go onto the platform, create their profile. We kind of guide them to create a resume without actually having a resume. Some of them do, so they can upload that. And then all the information is sorted out. And for the athlete side, they can filter through different job opportunities, availability if they're looking for a job, internship, location, remote, etc. Just anything that they would need to know to apply.
Okay, and then as far as this starting to kind of go after the schools. I know this is early on, but is the goal to kind of be? We talk about this offline. Like a lot of current students and alumni just graduated are familiar with Handshake, so it's something that the school would work with maybe a local employer base. I mean, it could still be national, but like there's those employers in that area. Is that kind of what you envision for the school's efforts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always really awesome when we can get companies in the local area, especially if it's in person for the athletes to attend to. However, alumni is another huge opportunity for the universities to plug into because obviously alumni have a lot of experience. They want to help their athletes and their former school. And so that's an awesome opportunity that we've been trying to plug into as well. But trying to provide really everything that we can for these athletes, whether it's remote, in person, local, or not. I'm just creating an extra platform where they can feel seen.
Yeah, it's great that you're doing that and hitting on the alumni part. I know we've talked about alumni direct and also just how there is a gap when the student athletes are done playing. Once they become alumni, they kind of go off into this different world. So it's great to see that you're trying to bring it back ultimately to where whether it be potentially alumni athletes looking for jobs or it could be alumni posting jobs for those athletes.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, so how can people find you?
Yeah, so people can find us on bridgeplatform.com. They can also find us through our Instagram, same thing, Bridge Platform. And then if there's anyone who has any questions, of course, they can always reach out to me or our contact team, which is at the bottom of our website.
Okay, great. I'm assuming like on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all that.
Yes, everything is the same Bridge Platform across all social media platforms and the website.
Okay, and so you can find us at alumnidirect.com, and the podcast is on our YouTube channel, as well as across Spotify and Apple and all the different podcast networks. And each episode, I always talk about the nuggets, as I call them, of just the great advice that we get from our athletes that are on, like Natalia, just telling, assuring athletes that, again, there is life after sports. I mean, it is such a major issue today. We really want to impact. I always say want to impact at least one, but obviously a lot more than that. And I kind of mentioned earlier, but definitely as an athlete, really anyone in general, but reach out for help if you need help. Don't be upset about things. I mean, everybody goes through it to a different extent, but there's people out there that do want to help, and there's a lot of different types of resources. So definitely encourage people to watch and listen, follow the show, and just more importantly, just tap into these resources like Bridge Platform and reach out to folks like Natalia. So Natalia, this has been great. We really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. This is awesome what you're doing. I think it's a great opportunity for athletes to learn and to get plugged in. So thank you so much for having me on.
It's been a true pleasure.